Right. Today I want to speak about what I would tell myself if I was starting out with music and music production today. So, back when I started out, things weren't as tech based as they are now. I was trying to make it as tech based, but it was tough because it was 2012. Social media wasn't a massive thing. It was there, sort of, kind of, but yeah. I made sure I moved around with CDs. I always had CDs that I'd burned a lot of beats into, the stack of them, and it had my contact details on it. I think I got a printer. I'd bought a printer that where you were able to print words onto it, right? So I got that one. I printed my details onto it, put it in its little normal white sleeves, and I just passed them out. Whenever I was at any sort of event or if I went to a radio station, I'd pass out a few beat CDs. When else? I passed some CDs out at ciphers, at events. Look, it wasn't crazy marketing, but I felt as though I was doing something, right? And they were completely free. These were just beat tape CDs. Beat tape CDs I was happy to give out. I remember two occasions. One where I actually got laughed at on radio. It was on Hip Hop Power Nights. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. It's burned in my memory. Where I left some CDs, and they were like, "Yeah, Silas, yeah, we got your CDs." Yeah, no, I never heard anything from them. It's funny we ended up working later down the line, but it's chilled. I was unknown, so I completely get it. And then the other time, I was stopped by the police, and they were, for some reason, we were checking my boot. I think they must have been checking my emergency light, and they looked at the CDs and they were like, "Are you a DJ?" And I was like, "No, I'm a music producer." Apparently, their son or their nephew or someone was a musician, so I gave them a CD. But I was ready, is what I'm trying to say. I was always ready. Yeah, so the first thing that I would say would be to go to where your people are. As a music producer, you want people to make use of your beats, usually artists, typically rappers, but also singers. Go to where they are. So go to pages where other artists would want to be. Especially, I think it's a bit easier on Facebook because you can go to very niche websites where it would be like South African hip hop, right? And you can go and spend some time in there, have a look at some of the other people that are there, contact them, DM them. Don't just spam them with your beats or spam them with your music. You want to actually figure out who these people are. You don't have to know the entire life story, but you want to ensure that you guys are actually vibing out before you start just sending beats back and forth. That shouldn't be too hard. You just want to make sure that you're not being a nuisance, because if they report you, then that's your whole hustle done. Then I would say from there, offer them something. Offer them, like I was offering CDs, whether it means, yeah, putting together a beat CD or a beat tape and then putting it out there and having a conversation to eventually say that, look, yo, would you like some beats? I've got some beats if you wanna, if you want something to rap on or whatever it is. And then from there, you then start building that connection. So that's what you could do online. Offline, I would say, try and get to as many studio sessions as you can. For me right now, my life doesn't allow for me to be up and about all the time at all hours of the day and night trying to get to studio sessions. But if you are in that position and you do want to learn what happens in a studio and environment, if you want to network more deeply, being in studio, there's a very deep sense of networking that happens. Even though a person might be there for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, you sit with a person, you bear yourself to the other person creatively. They see what you're about, you see what they're about, you share ideas, and then you eventually create this thing called a song. Right? So there's a lot of networking that can happen. I would have probably told myself to start doing that a lot more. I got to Joburg in 2012, and I think as the first session I held was in 2015. I didn't have the audience or the fan base or people around me to say, let's have a studio session any earlier than that. I didn't even have the equipment to be able to do that. The first studio session I did attend was actually in 2012, which is pretty cool because that was when I think I actually met P.O in that session at Jay Lawless's studio, which was pretty cool because I would never have met him in any other regard. And then if I'm not mistaken, someone else popped up. Might have been, I don't know who it was, but they popped up and then I greeted them. They're like, "Hey, it's you." I'm like, "Yeah," and then they were like, "Yeah, no, take my number, get it from Justin, and then we can start making music." We never actually made any music together, but it was just nice to see the type of interactions that can happen within a studio setting. And then that started happening more and more. And then when I eventually started holding my own studio sessions, that was the bread and butter of the day. People would bring their friends, other people who rap, other artists. They would see the vibe in studio. They would enjoy it. They'd feel comfortable and say, "Yo, man, I'm going to get your number. We're going to work." And it took a while, but I managed to build that up. I haven't spent as much time trying to build that type of network. It's just recording it's a bit of a different task for me now. I feel as though I've sort of moved away from that. So that's not really what I want to get into. Now, for producers, the thought is usually that for a producer to do what they need to do, they need to find an artist or a singer or a rapper to tag along. And whatever the artist does, the producer will do. And you don't even have to do that. I mean, these days, there's a whole industry in sync licensing where you can go direct to another business as your own business. You're like, "Look, I'm a music producer. I make this many beats of this genre. I make this feel. Is this what you want?" They'll listen through it. If they like it, they'll say, "Yeah, sure." And that's the connection made. At that point, you don't need to bring someone in to play someone's vocals on your beat. That is the track. That's the track in its entirety. It's done. You can then send it through to them and you build that relationship with that publishing company or that music library, and you can then have that as your business model. Get 3 or 4 music libraries and you should be pretty good. You should be pretty set. If you're able to continually create fresh and interesting music for them, that becomes your network. But bottom line is, it's going to be important for you to network. So I know for music producers, we generally are more reserved. We don't like talking as much, especially in real, not like this here on the internet, but like in real environments, we're not the most vocal. But it's important that, we pull ourselves out of that persona for a little bit, just to be more social. For the interactions to be more acceptable, so that you can navigate that. You can become weird and awkward when the people eventually get to know you and you're comfortable with them, but for the most part, when you're out and you're in public and you're trying to figure things out and learn, there has to be that element of, I'm here to get to know people, "Hi, how are you? What do you do?" That type of thing. Thinking about it now is even making me feel a little bit weird, because I don't do that often, but I've done it enough to build up enough connections that it's made it a lot easier when I eventually get into it. It's not easy building networks, and it's not easy getting your name out there as a music producer, but I think if you can get a foothold on a particular niche within your genre, then you're good to go.